Cool. Let's jump right in. JR, what do you got for us today?
Well, my question is kind of multifaceted.
Sure.
And so when you talk about before the prophets, how they used to experience private revelation, which then in the past led to public revelation. And then the impact of that public revelation on the society in which the prophets lived. So my question is, what do you think if someone were experiencing that type of private revelation that led to public revelation? What do you think would be the impact on society, and what do you think it would take for people to believe that something greater than the material world existed?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, we're definitely approaching that from a narrative that says that God selected a certain number of people. He called them prophets, or he gave them the gift of prophecy, or whatever framework we want to use there. He then gave them a revelation, and they came up on the mountainside and told people about it. And why can't we go back to that model? Is that a little bit what you're getting at, JR?
Well, not why can't we go back to that? What if God is pushing us towards that model?
Okay, but what if God isn't existing at all? Like, I don't mean to go back to the very fundamental question, but I don't really know how to approach what it is that you're asking me if I don't believe that God told Elijah or Elisha or any of these other folks to do any of those things that they said that he told them to do.
Good point. Now, then let's take what I'm experiencing right now, which is it's called Locution, and I've been through many different paths. Talked to many different priests. Went to graduate school over the subject. Spent many years studying theology. Many years studying these things, and I experience Locution on a daily basis. And that's my claim.
Yeah. No, I hear that, and I'm not looking to tear that claim down. I definitely want to get into this conversation with you, but I'll acknowledge that I have made similar claims, and not from a fraudulent huckster kind of framework. There have been days in my life, there were long seasons in my life where I also believed that God had laid thoughts on my heart and that it was my obligation to go out and share them with people. I have received direct personal revelation from God and prayed over the people in front of me and told them what God had to say to them, and at no point was I lying. That doesn't mean I was right or accurate or that anything I said was true, but it also doesn't mean I was lying. So if we can acknowledge those frameworks and those possibilities, I'd love to let you continue.
No, absolutely. I believe that when you were doing your thing, you had your experiences. So when that was happening to you, were you having direct communication with God, and was he answering back?
As per my understanding of what God was and is and how he communicates, yeah, that was very much my belief system. I had these feelings, these thoughts in my head. They very much appeared to come from a source. I now have a much better understanding of consciousness, and I recognize they did come from a source. That source just wasn't magic or metaphysical or, Jehovah God.
Yeah, JR, which God is it that you feel you're communicating with?
It's Yahweh, the triune God.
Okay. So what would you say to people who get visits from Vishnu?
Well, I believe that God is the God of many gods, capital G, little g.
Okay.
And if you go to Psalm 82, it talks about God, the Elohim, being in the council of the Elohim.
I understand that. So
I believe in all the other gods as well.
Okay. So I think that the way I was framing that is, how can you tell the difference between, somebody getting a visit from a certain God and you getting a visit from your God, and then people who are kind of just making it up? I think there's really no way to test it. And so to answer your question on how this would affect public life, I think there would be, kind of a spectrum of how people would respond to that. Now, you're responding to it in your own way, and you claim that all the gods are real, and that's kind of, that's kind of a, and I mean this respectfully, JR, but I feel like that's kind of a cop-out, and don't beat me up for that. I'm trying to be respectful, but
when a lot of the gods that you claim are real are saying that they are mutually exclusive and that the other god can't be a god, it does feel like a logical cop-out, yeah? And
I just kind of want to see how do you negotiate your way around that and come to the conclusion that the God that you're talking to, who says it's the one and only true God, also has counterparts out there from different religions that are speaking to them, and this seems like a very tangled web. And so I just wanted to see what your comments are on that.
Well, it is it's very complex, and it's been going on for over 4 years now that I experience not only visual confirmation of God, but also the locution that I experience. God writes on my forehead as well the letters of the words in which I speak and which I hear from Him. So that's my experience. And if we're talking about how God, Yahweh, is the uncreated creator, He created the heavens and the earth and all the other gods. If we go back through the creation story, He created both the spiritual and the physical realms. And so, as what happened at the Tower of Babel is that God turned us over to the rebelling small letter G of His counsel. He still reigns supreme over everything. Is what He tells me, and the rest of the gods of the nations are demons. So that's my understanding and I'm not trying to be a cop-out, and I do appreciate your respectful approach to this, because I'm not trying to do anything but understand kind of the road He's sending me on today, having me call you.
I was going to say, yeah, so the question, if we really boil it down, is something along the lines of, God speaks to me, how do I tell people that and have them take me seriously or listen to what God says through me? Is that kind of ultimately what we're getting to here?
Well, I don't talk to people about I've only talked to very few people. I'm not preaching. I'm not out trying to convert people.
But you want to reveal what has been revealed to you.
I want Him to reveal Himself and then follow in the steps that He's training me to do. So does that make sense? So I'm basically here today to talk about the possibility of God giving the world a sign. And that's why He put me on the phone here today.
I can't help but feel like the all-powerful, all-knowing God would not need for you to call a bunch of atheists on the internet to answer that question.
I agree.
And maybe that's a cop-out on our end, but it just seems like a very overly convoluted delivery system. If God is going to speak to you and then ask you to speak to others, I don't necessarily know how qualified we are to advise you on the subject. I will say that your message is going to be much better received if you can evidence it with things from the natural world in a way that is logically sound and consistent. We so often gloss over that part when we say, oh, but look at how beautiful the trees are. Clearly they came from God. We need a little bit more than that. We need something that's going to be consistent and measurable and that works within our understanding of how the world operates and what we can demonstrate to be true. And then we need these revelations as you share them to not be violent and shitty, to not put down or condemn one particular gender or orientation or ethnicity. And then there might be some opportunity for people to take you seriously. But I think they're still going to ask the question, why JR? Why is God speaking to you and now you're talking to me when this all-powerful God doesn't need a parlor trick to prove to us that He's real or to demonstrate His existence? Yeah?
Well, I understand where you're going there with that. And, I do believe God works in very mysterious ways. And the way that he's worked with me has been basically, instead of going like the role of the saint, I'm going the role of the sinner, and I'm learning through the opposites. So that's kind of my journey and where I'm coming from. And it's not, he's not planning to do a parlor trick or anything like that. I'm just relating to you the experience. This call today, was basically his idea. And so he works through me, and he'll work through you, and he'll get his purpose out on this.
I got no idea what he's doing or why he's doing it this way. I kind of wonder if the reason that you called today might be a little bit closer to home. I'll encourage you to kind of investigate your own consciousness in that sense.
Yeah, I don't know how he's working through me, except maybe he can use me to give you like a historic background. So I've done some research in ancient religions, and I just wanted to kind of posit this on you and give you some food for thought. Abraham left the city of Ur, right? Ur of the Chaldees, and he and his father, they ventured up to a city called Haran, which is in northern Mesopotamia, a little bit north of where Damascus is. And then after that, they ventured down and they settled in the land of Canaan. And then they settled in the city of Hebron, which is where Hebrew comes from, right? But before, and this is from a collection of scholarly work, not my own work, but research that I've found. So Mesopotamia was a society that worshipped a plethora of gods, right? A sun god, a moon god. There was a disparity or an argument in that society between what the moon god was called. Was it Nama or was it Sin? Okay, Yahweh was one of those gods. Yahweh was one of those gods. And the theory has it that when those people who left Mesopotamia, Abraham included, were more nomadic and they worshipped this set of gods, the differentiation between those gods were assigned to the different roles that nature played in their lifestyle. They were constantly moving around. They prayed to different gods of the nighttime and the daytime and rain, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not exactly sure where Yahweh fell into that. Theory has it that once those people settled in the land of Canaan, the Canaanites worshipped El, and El was a single deity. El was the all-knowing creator, right? And it seems that the Hebrews kind of took this idea of Yahweh and merged it with El as they merged with the Canaanites. And so that all took place around 1900 BCE, or, BC as we would have called it, decades ago. And so that is what has been unearthed, as far as we know, about the ancient gods of Mesopotamia, how we ended up with Yahweh, and also Sin, the moon god, ironically, was, the competitor to the Canaanites, El, right? So you had the cult of Sin, which took place, which was located in the more northern territories. And so, of course, everybody who didn't agree with them were sinners, right? Just like if you take the ancient Greeks, everybody who existed outside of Greece, the word for that was barbarian, non-Greek. And so barbarian came to mean this, uncivilized person. Just like how people worshipped Sin, or who didn't worship El or Yahweh, were called sinners. I'm sorry I went off on that tangent. Maybe took a little bit more time than you wanted to dedicate to that. But I just wanted to kind of give you some food for thought. I mean, there are reasons why we have some of this terminology and some of these belief systems. They go back a long ways. And I would want to know, if God's talking to you, what's his counter to my claim that a lot of this stuff is just made up by people?
Well, the institutions that are built by man, every one of them is corrupt. So, I'm not here to actually justify what happened in the past. I only understand what I studied, and then what I'm getting directed to by God. And, I'm familiar with those stories. I understand a lot of the gods of the old world, especially in Mesopotamia, Samaria, the Assyrians, all of that had different gods, El morphing into Yahweh, Moloch and Astaroth and Semiramis and Tammuz and all of these other myths. I believe that there's truth and lies in all of them. So it's hard to go back and reconstruct the actual narratives of how all this happened. And that's the hard part about history is we're left with whoever won wrote the history. So, I thank you for being so thorough with that. I do know that. And, I'm on a journey here. I'm learning from God and learning about this. I used to be pretty much an atheist and threw everything away and didn't care about, and I'll be 57 this week. And for 50 of those years, I didn't believe in any of this.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't care less. I was living my life doing I was a human resources executive making, 6 figures for the last, 20 years.
You should donate to our show.
Well, I appreciate, you guys give me a lot of thought exercises.
Hey, JR, before you go, I just want to leave you with one thing if I can. I want you, so you said that you were an atheist and now you're a believer. I don't want to harp on this today. I want you to call back and I want you to come with kind of your best explanation of what it was that took you from being an atheist to a theist. All right. I want to know what made that transition for you. And I want you to discuss it on another show in the future. So you got some time to prepare.
Okay. I really appreciate that. And, I just hope, what do you think if God sent another pillar of fire down here? Do you think anyone would be rocked by that?
No.
I mean, if a giant pillar of fire just erupted out of nowhere, yeah, I do think that news reports would cover it. I think that it would be a big deal. And if it was completely inconsistent with everything that we already understood about the natural world, yeah, people might even decide to call that supernatural. But it just keeps not happening. God has had so many opportunities to tell so many people his revealed truths, and not a single one of them has been able to come out and say something meaningful that we haven't been able to disprove or find, truth through other means or whatever else. It just keeps not happening. And so, yeah, JR, I appreciate you calling and asking some of these questions. I might encourage you to investigate a little bit more into consciousness and neurobiology and to begin to understand what your own thoughts sound like and to figure out how do I differentiate between my thoughts and God's revelation, if for no other reason than so you can explain the distinction to others in a way that they are able to palatably believe. So thank you so much for your thoughts.
Great call, JR.
No, I appreciate it. And I hope to talk to you soon. And I'm waiting for my pillar of fire here in Spokane, Washington. So
hey, thanks. We all are. 27 seasons still doing this show. No pillars of fire yet. We'll keep on looking. Thank you so much for calling.